So I just thought of a really good analogy for how you might talk to somebody about your meditation practice and how you might think about it yourself. The analogy contains 3 parts. The first is how organized your mind is. The second is what the speed of your mind is. And the third is how much space your mind has. And so I'll break those down individually, and then I'll talk about the analogy at the end. So in terms of organized, I would say if your mind is sort of organized, if you can put it onto a particular task and it can sort of break that task up and accomplish it. Let's say that you want to create a to-do list. Your mind is very good at saying, like, I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then doing 1, 2, 3, 4. The next part might be like, how speedy is your mind? So that is just literally how fast and furious thoughts and emotions come through your mind. And so sometimes maybe it might be like a flood, and sometimes it'll be like a rushing stream, and sometimes it'll be like a trickling stream, and sometimes it'll be like a vast pond, right? Just calm and cool. And that might also be like a way of thinking about speed. It's very slow. And then another attribute, space, where you sort of like what's happening in between. How comfortable are you with a little bit of a gap? How comfortable are you with wide open spaces, with uncertainty? How comfortable are you with potentiality? Like, this situation could go in a lot of different directions. How comfortable are you in just resting in that situation and not knowing what direction things are going to go in? And so, generally speaking, if you're not very comfortable in space, then you'll fill it up with all sorts of other things, thoughts and emotions and things. And so that is how organized your mind is, how speedy your mind is, and how comfortable you are with space. And so the analogy here is, imagine that your whole mental space is like a conveyor belt, right? Like a toy factory. And in this toy factory, you make 500 different kinds of toys, right? And the parts from the toys come along, and you pull them up off the conveyor belt, and you put them, one little piece aside until you have all the pieces that you need to construct that toy. And then you construct the toy, and more pieces come down the conveyor belt. All right. So then in this analogy, organized is if all of the pieces for that particular toy come in the right order and come in like one toy at a time, right? So you could imagine that all the truck parts come in one at a time, and you get all the truck parts, and then you put the truck parts together. But what happens if, while the truck parts are coming in, a doll comes in, and now you're trying to like separate the doll parts from the truck parts, right? And you can kind of imagine, okay, if your brain can make 500 different kinds of toys, what if just random pieces from random toys come in, right? And now you have to sift through, and you have to identify each little piece, and you have to sort of organize them into a bucket, and then okay, now I have enough of these parts to make a truck, and I have enough of these parts to make a doll, and I have enough of these parts to make a yo-yo. If your mind is very disorganized, those pieces are going to just seem completely random, like, what's even going on here? If you're very organized, if your mind is very organized, then the right pieces are going to come in at the right time. Okay, and then the next bit is speed. So you can kind of imagine the cadence in which the pieces come through the conveyor belt. So if one's coming in at a time, two's coming in at a time, the speed of the conveyor belt's really fast. Maybe actually you could keep up with it. You could kind of imagine, if your mind was really organized, then crank up the speed, just like take it off all the truck parts come in at once, you scoop them up and you put them down, and then you make the truck, right? Great. They can come in as fast as you need. And or if it was really slow, if your mind was really disorganized, but things are coming in really kind of slowly, you can, even if you could spend a lot of time sort of like sorting things out and getting all your pile of toy pieces into the right place. And then the third thing is, and maybe you've already recognized this, right? As the toy pieces come in, and you finally get that sort of like chunk of toys ready to go, if your conveyor belt is still active and things are still coming in, you don't have time to actually put together the truck or the doll or whatever, right? You need a little bit of space to really consume the incoming insanity that is your mind, right? And if you're not comfortable with that space, then how are you going to be able to construct and make meaning out of these parts, right? And if your mind doesn't have enough space, that might be okay actually if your mind is organized and if the speed is slow enough, then you have plenty of time, you can kind of catch up, right? But so I would say that, like, in my sense is that you don't have to be perfect in terms of how organized your mind is, and or how fast, how controlled the speed of your mind is, or how willing you are to deal with space. But if two out of those three are, if you have issues with two out of those three, then it may actually be very difficult for you to practice meditation. And so you can take a look at your own meditation practice, whatever it is. Look at these different components, and if you're working with the teacher, you can talk to them and say, well, you know what, I feel like my mind is like this in terms of organization, but it's like this in terms of speed, I really love or don't love space or whatever. And you can have like a very helpful conversation, and they can give you advice based on your own experience. And so what I've just talked about today isn't necessarily like a traditional approach, but it is based on, those individual things are based on traditional concepts. So there isn't like a text I can send you to and say, like, if you want to learn more, read here, but it is just a good way of talking about it. So if you like content like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.